you need to pause, you need to relax. So it's really important that you have a good bedtime routine, because you can't just like come in from a night out and you're still buzzing and then go to bed and think, right, okay, I need to sleep now. That's not going to work, because the more you think about sleep, the less it's going to happen. So you need to have some like downtime. So whether or not it's just watching TV for a little bit, try to avoid your phone, like looking at screens, because what happens when you start to feel tired, your brain starts to fire off melatonin, which is your sleepy hormone. If you're looking at screens, it's going to wake you up and it's going to stop the secretion of that hormone. So you need to kind of be maybe in a sort of dimly lit room, watch a bit of telly, listen to a podcast or listen to some music, do some stretching, or just read a book.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Burnt Chef Journal, a hospitality-specific podcast dedicated to challenging mental health stigma and conversations designed to inspire a new, healthier, happier, and more sustainable hospitality profession. The Burnt Chef project is proudly sponsored by Lamb Weston, a leading provider of innovative, high-quality potato products created for chefs to help operators thrive both today and tomorrow. Working carefully with sustainably minded farmers and growers, Lamb Weston provides potato solutions for every type of kitchen, from premium British chips and fries to potato shapes, wedges and mash. To find out more, head to lambweston.eu or search your partner in potatoes.
Hello, everybody. My name's Hulya, your Burnt Chef Ambassador, and I'm pleased to be guest hosting a mini-series for the Burnt Chef Project podcast, openly discussing mental health, our brilliant hospitality sector, and an array of topics to create insightful conversations and give you maximum value. I have a brilliant lineup of guests covering everything from psychotherapy, mindfulness, diet hang-ups, all the way to spirituality. Now, did you know 4 out of 5 hospitality professionals report having experienced at least one mental health issue during their career? The Burnt Chef Project is a globally recognized not-for-profit social enterprise fully committed to making the hospitality profession healthier and more sustainable by focusing on people's well-being first. This is why it has never been more important to be talking about our mental health and well-being. For more information on this amazing project, go to www.theburnchefproject.com. A bit about me. I'm a transformation coach, an obsessed master of self-discovery, guiding women to believe in themselves, find the motivation to take action and create a life they truly believe in and are excited about. I'm also a professional chef with over 20 years in the hospitality sector, an educator, radio personality, and writer. Through my own life experiences, including 2 divorces, domestic abuse, depression, and homelessness, I learned firsthand that to make any real change in your life, you have to start from within. You can find me online at therecipeforlife.com. So I'm so excited about my podcast topic this week. It is the 5 pillars of vitality. And what are they? They are sleep, eat, move, think, and pause, and how all of these 5 link together to make sure that you can lead a healthy life. How can we keep as healthy as possible, but also ensure that we are looking after our mental health and well-being? And to discuss this very important topic, joining me today is Rachel Williams, although I do affectionately refer to her as Rachel Zest. Rachel Williams is an employee wellness consultant and is passionate about inspiring and supporting people to live healthier lives with straightforward wellness advice that works. Rachel's business is based on the 5 principles, or what she likes to call the 5 pillars of vitality, which are eat, sleep, move, think, and pause. Rachel is trained in CBT for insomnia. She's a mental health first aider, nutrition, personal fitness, stress management, NLP, and hypnotherapy. Rachel, welcome to the Burnt Chef Project podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
No, absolute pleasure. It's just amazing to have you here. Now, I know you've actually had some experience in the hospitality sector. You have actually worked in hospitality, haven't you?
I have. I was trained in the hospitality sector many, many moons ago.
Amazing. So you have first-hand experience, really, of what it's like to be in our industry.
I do.
Yeah. So now I want you to tell people about your own health stories. I know you do mention it on your site, but I want you to actually give people a nice little nugget as to what led you to come into this area of work in particular.
Yeah, it's quite funny, isn't it, how we sort of end up doing things by accident. So roll back about 20 years. I kind of working in hospitality then, but I was in event management and I was traveling all around Europe, and I describe it almost as like a sort of jet set lifestyle. I was staying in lovely 5-star hotels, eating Michelin star restaurants, and organizing these big events. You know, if I was sort of confronted with a breakfast buffet, it was like I was like a Pac-Man. I used to like chomp my way through it.
We've all done that. Listen, let me tell you.
Consequently, I had a bit of a weight problem. So I ended up being 3 stone heavier than I am now, which is around 23 kilos. And I would say it's like the size of a suitcase that you take on holiday. I used to smoke, which obviously I probably sort of got that habit from my hospitality days. And I was smoking between 20 to 40 cigarettes a day. I used to net back a bottle of wine every night, probably Chardonnay, because it was 1990s. And also I never did any kind of fitness. And I think because I'd been traumatized at school by being made to throw the shot put on sports day, or making me do hurdles. I'm only 5'3", I'm only short, so I just crash into them. And it's like, don't make me do the high jump because I'm short. So that traumatized me with fitness. It was like, oh no, I don't want to do that. So I got to the year 2000 and I had what I call my epiphany moment. And I woke up one morning in a hotel room in Barcelona. I was away on a site visit, organising a conference. And I'd been out the night before. I'd had too much to drink, been drinking too much Rioja, too many Spanish cigarettes, the old 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and I hadn't had much sleep. You know, I just felt rough. Mouth felt like the bottom of a budgie's cage. I to describe it. And I got out of bed and I just caught my reflection in the mirror and I just thought to myself, you're 37 and you look rubbish and you're pale, you've got dark shadows under your eyes, you're tired, and you're on your way to burnout. And you've got 3 years until you're 40. And I thought to myself, right, this is it. I've got to start to look after myself. Another thing that was motivating me as well was seeing the way my parents were aging. You know, they were in their 60s and they're off to the doctors the whole time and on various medications. And I just suddenly thought, I don't want to be like them. And I don't want to be going to the doctors every week when I'm in my 60s. So I thought, right, okay, 40 is a sort of pivotal time for change. I thought, right, okay, I'm going to get back to the UK and I'm going to start to look after myself. So I started eating healthily rather than dieting. I joined a gym, got myself a personal trainer and stopped drinking during the week, gave up the cigarettes. It was amazing. Within 6 weeks, I could see a difference with my energy, the way I felt. And it's interesting, actually, the healthy eating program I was going to do, or I was doing, was only 30 days. It was a 30-day program. And I've kind of never looked back. So I got fitter and healthier. And it really took me about 6 to 8 months. And people kept asking me about how I made my transformation. And I was kind of giving them advice all the time. And I was going to see my massage therapist. And she said, I'm really proud of you, of what you've achieved, because, you know, I kept nagging you to get fitter and lose some weight. You never listened to me, but it took you 2 years to get there. And then suddenly you changed. And now look at you. And I said, oh, you know, I feel fantastic. I said, you know, so many people ask me how I did my transformation. I said, the amount of advice I give, I should get paid for it. And she goes, so why don't you? I said, what do you mean? And she goes, why don't you become a personal trainer? It's like, what? No. It's like the worst thing. She said, no, she said, you'd be really great training people who are exactly like how you were. You'd be great with them. Plus, you've got your hospitality background, so you've got good nutritional background, and I think you'd be brilliant at that. And I kind of went, yeah. 24 hours later, I thought, this is a fantastic idea. And then 2 weeks later, I'd found the courses that I needed to go on. And then it was probably about a year or so later that I left my nice corporate job behind and started my own business.
That's
so
amazing.
I've actually been in the health sector now for 19 years.
Wow. I mean, can I say, I'm going to interrupt you there for a second and just tell everybody, because obviously this is a podcast, much, like a radio show, they can't see you, but let me tell you people, this woman, for someone who is approaching 60, have you hit the big 60 yet, Rachel? But seriously,
not till November.
Right, there you go. Right, so you're hitting the big 60 this year, right? She's not ashamed to say it. I'm a big believer in, how old are you? I'm going to be 52 this year. Very proud of that. And let me tell you, people, how incredible Rachel looks. Really, I mean, what a stunning woman. You look amazing. You really do. You just look the absolute epitome of health. I mean, you look fantastic. So yeah, I just did want to get that one in there.
Thank you. Well, I kind of have to walk my talk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ain't that the truth? Amen to that, sister. But I mean, this is absolutely right? And you really are, and you're a testimony to everything that you believe in. Okay, and I think that is such a crucial thing. Obviously, I'm in the transformation business, definitely from a sort of thought and perspective, and belief is so important, isn't it? And you believed in yourself. You had that epiphany moment. You believed in yourself, and you decided, what, there has to be a change. And I think that is the thing as well, isn't it? That's the key as well to life sometimes, is that there gets a point where you think, I've got to do something different, because clearly everything I'm doing at the moment is not working.
And it kind of takes, sometimes it's like when you make that change, you have to be mentally ready. And it's having that reason, that big why as to why you want to do it. And, when things aren't going too well with your health, it is having that belief and think, I can do this. I can do this. And it's, what do I need to change to or tweak that's going to help me achieve my health goal?
Absolutely. I mean, you made some quite dramatic life changes, like, literally overnight. But what I would say to anybody is that, even just a few small tweaks, just some small steps, will make a significant difference to your life in whether that is taking time out for yourself, whether that's meditating, journaling, having a massage, going to the gym, maybe just dropping the alcohol, like you said, in the week, only having a set number to drink on the weekend, giving up the smoking or cutting it down, whatever it is, it's making a few small tweaks to start to see differences. Once you see the differences you see, and you start to see how you feel on the other side, then people are more motivated to carry on, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. And actually, one of the things is that when you're feeling good, and you maybe slip a little bit and you kind of think, oh my God, I didn't realize actually how bad I felt. You just have no comprehension of what good feels like. But it's just work at it, because it does change your life. It does transform it. And it's so important actually that we do look after ourselves. Absolutely. And one of my big things at the moment is kind of motivating people to look after themselves more, because the NHS is in crisis. It's in meltdown. If we get sick, who's going to look after us? And I'm very much around preventing lifestyle illnesses or diseases, which are completely preventable. But it just means that we have to kind of look after ourselves more. So it's working on prevention rather than cure. I bet many of the listeners have had an experience. It's like, how long does it take to get a GP's appointment?
Oh,
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Seriously.
You ring up the doctor because you're ill, and they go, oh, we can't fit you in for 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Or if you go to A&E, I've had a couple of friends over Christmas period, 10 hours in A&E, and one of them actually nearly died. Or it was 4 days actually in one hospital. Or if you need to see a consultant, how long is it going to take? Or if you need surgery, how long is it going to take? So it's like, how can you just keep as healthy as possible so that you minimize having to have medical intervention? Or if you do need it, there are the people around to look after you, rather than people with lifestyle diseases or illnesses. So there's kind of, it's mismanaged, and it's an absolute mess.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I also want to share a couple of statistics with you that I've kind of, it's another thing that I'm sort of helping people sort of kind of see the light a little bit about investing in your health. It's never ever too late to invest in your health, but So the average life expectancy of a man is 78.6 years. And for a woman, it's 82.6 years. Now, these stats come from the King's Fund. And men will spend, on average, 20% of their life in ill health. And women, it's actually higher. It's 23%. It's quite sort of humbling. It's like, do you want to spend a fifth? Men, do you want to spend a fifth of your life in ill health? Women, nearly a quarter of your life in ill health. So you kind of think about late 50s, early 60s. That's when you're going to start maybe to get ill. And it's like, how can you prevent that from happening? Not to be a part of that statistic. And our life expectancy actually was about a year or two older before the pandemic. And because of the pandemic, it's actually come down. And we're actually back to where we were 10 years ago. Wow. So this is where I kind of really sort of eulogize about the 5 pillars of vitality, because they're kind of interwoven into your mental and your physical health.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you know what? Let's beautifully move into that now and talk about these 5 pillars of vitality, how that came to be for you, how you, realized that link between these 5 key areas. And of course, talking about the first area, which is sleep. But really, first, how did you sort of link up these 5 areas to make it, to consider them the 5 pillars of vitality?
Well, it's quite interesting because when I first started in health, I was a personal trainer. And I realized that for people to get fit, they also needed to eat healthier. And I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, you have to eat healthy 100% of the time. I'm very much, it's the 80-20 rule. But sometimes we have to work a little bit harder, especially after Christmas. It might be 90-10.
Yep. I don't even talk about Christmas.
My whole ethos is it's about being healthy, but doing it simply, but still having fun. So 20% of the time, it's like, do what you like, as long as it's legal. But it is, we don't want you having to live like a Tibetan monk. And if there are any Tibetan monks listening, have a bit of fun.
Amazing.
But it is, I kind of thought about, right. So you've got the fitness, and then you've got the healthy eating, and then the whole sort of mental health thing, stress, how you manage your stress. That was a kind of a big thing because I trained in mental health and neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, and cognitive behaviour therapy. That was also a big thing as well. And then sleep kind of entered my radar screen about 7 or 8 years ago, because I went through a period of insomnia. Actually, the only way I managed to get to sleep was reading loads of books about sleep. And I found it an absolutely fascinating subject. And I began to realize the importance of sleep. I didn't realize, and actually scared myself to death, thinking, oh my God, if I don't sleep properly, all these things are going to happen. And if I sleep properly, I'm going to minimize or reduce the risk of getting what I call the nasties, like heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and some kinds of cancer. So I thought, okay, that's the 4 pillars. And it's been the 4 pillars for actually quite a long time. And then at the beginning of last year, I saw an author speak. She's also a radio presenter on Radio 4, a woman called 𝗂𝗲𝗄𝗵𝗵𝗀. And she was talking about rest. And I was thinking, oh my God, rest can be a 5th pillar. And then as the year went on, I thought, no, actually, it needs to be pause. So that's where pause came from. So that's really how I got the 5 pillars together.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, I mean, how I met you actually. So I met you through my friend Paula. She was another one of my podcast guests. And it was really, you were talking a lot about sleep at the time when I first met you, actually, and how that can make such a significant difference to your energy levels, to your life, to your day. And we know, as you worked in hospitality, and all those wonderful, beautiful people out there, listeners today, is that sleep is a huge area for us in the terms of not enough of it, erratic sleep, late hours, early mornings, long days. It can really affect our ability to focus and so on. So let's talk about sleep. Let's start with that. Let's talk about sleep, because I'm really interested to learn more from you about how this can affect our mental health and well-being. Right.
So to me, sleep is like the number 1 pillar for your health. It's fundamental to everything, because if you don't sleep properly, it affects the other 4 pillars. It will affect your mental health, or what I call think. and your stress levels. You'll start to eat probably more unhealthily if you're not sleeping properly. So you're going to crave carbohydrates. I think you're 42% more likely to sort of grab junk food if you're not sleeping properly. And obviously, if you're not sleeping properly, you don't have the energy to exercise. And then when I talk about pause, I mean, I'll touch on pause a little bit more in a moment. But, pause is kind of your enjoyment time. It's that time between work and sleep. And you don't want to be, you want to have some life and enjoy your life. So what happens when we sleep? Because I think people really sort of underestimate the value of sleep.
Yeah, the power of sleep.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And some people do sort of wear a badge of honor saying, I only slept 3 hours last night.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not a badge of honor. It's so bad for your health.
Yeah.
So
it's nothing to be proud of.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about reducing what I call the nasties, but there's also in there's Alzheimer's and dementia. And world leaders who boast that they don't sleep or they only slept like 4 hours, Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump's still alive, but both Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan had Alzheimer's or dementia when they pass away. So, and Donald Trump, well, jury's out on him. You're putting yourself at risk because what happens when you sleep? So you go through 5 different stages of sleep. You're sleeping in 90-minute cycles, and you're going through these 5 different stages during these 90-minute cycles. So you have very light sleep, and then you have light sleep, deep sleep, and then REM sleep. I left one out. Very light. Anyway. So when we go to sleep, head touches the pillow, we have a sort of period of time that it actually sort of takes us to sort of go into a sort of lighter sleep, and then we'll drop into this all kind of mid sleep. And then we'll go into a deep sleep. And then you'll come out, you're going to sort of the lighter sleep, and then you'll go into REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement sleep, which is kind of your dream state sleep, but you can dream through all the other bits as well. But it's kind of where your brain is kind of sorting out things. So you go through these 90-minute cycles. Predominantly at the beginning of the night, the first 2 cycles will have more deep sleep. And this is where your body is doing all sorts of different functions. Your brain is having a little cleanup. During the day, we get a buildup of a sticky plaque called beta amyloid. And if this is led to sort of go on and build up for years and years and years, and we're talking decades, this is where you are predominantly at risk for Alzheimer's or dementia. So what happens is when you're asleep, fluid comes up through your spine and it cleans in between your brain cells. It like sort of shampoos them and gets rid of all this sticky plaque. Your immune system is being reset, your blood pressure, your hormones, your digestive system. Just trying to think what they're called now. I've just forgotten. There's like cells in your body which can cause cancer and aging. Those are getting cleaned up. It's this whole sort of process. Cells are being repaired. Your muscles are being repaired. So if you've been down to the gym and you've kind of really worked hard, your muscles are being repaired. Your tissues are being repaired. So it's like all these things are happening and your brain's having a bit of a tidy up. It's like doing a backup of all the things that you've experienced during the day and deciding what it's going to keep and what it's going to chuck out. And then it's going to put some things into long-term memory. So that's how valuable your sleep is. So physically and mentally, we need it, and it's restorative.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it, isn't it? Restorative. I think that is the absolute key. It's like an opportunity to reset and start over, right? I was going to say, because obviously when you're working at a fast pace, especially in our sector, especially if you're a chef as well in particular, or if you're a general manager or a maitre d' or whatever it is, you're running around, you're working at this fast pace and and there's always that little life outside of work as well, where they all go out afterwards and everyone's in this high energy state. When you get home, how can you say prepare yourself for a decent night's sleep?
You need to pause, you need to relax. So it's really important that you have a good bedtime routine, because you can't just like come in from a night out and you're still buzzing and then go to bed and think, right, okay, I need to sleep now. That's not going to work, because the more you think about sleep, the less it's going to happen. So you need to have some like downtime. So whether or not it's just watching TV for a little bit, try to avoid your phone, looking at screens, because what happens when you start to feel tired, your brain starts to fire off melatonin, which is your sleepy hormone. if you're looking at screens, it's going to wake you up and it's going to stop the secretion of that hormone. So you need to kind of be maybe in a sort of dimly lit room, watch a bit of telly, listen to a podcast or listen to some music, do some stretching, or just read a book. You can read Kindles as long as the screen's turned down, or any other e-reader. But it is important to relax, or, it's maybe where you have a shower or a bath, and it's just relax down for bedtime, because you think about your body's got to kind of go through these different stages to be able to get into deep sleep. And deep sleep is only 20% of your night's sleep. So you kind of just need to relax so your body can perform that function, or else you're not going to get enough deep sleep, which means that all those lovely things that happen aren't going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the bits of advice that I like to give as well is the brain dump. So I always say, try to step away from the TV, step away from your phone at least an hour before you go to sleep. Please, by all means, out there are many, many, many studies and many books as well about sleep, about how valuable sleep is, as Rachel says, and you can go ahead and read those. And a lot of them will say to you, for about the hour before you're going to bed is, yes, definitely dimly lit room, relax, calm yourself. Meditation is always amazing, and I always advise that as well. The brain dump is a good one where you can journal. So instead of ruminating over thoughts going on in your head or things happening in your life, maybe things happened in the kitchen, maybe things happened elsewhere, and instead of just going to sleep on those thoughts, it's best to put them down in a book, in a journal, on a piece of paper, fold it up, release it out there, let it go, and go to sleep without those thoughts in your head. So definitely in preparation for sleep, it is actually important to try to adopt some kind of little routine or little ritual in order to give yourself that opportunity to calm down. Even a nice herbal tea, a chamomile, something like that as well. Even burning a bit of incense, a little bit of a lavender spray on your pillow. All of these can help, can help along, whether they are.
Yeah, and actually writing down 3 things that you were grateful for the day.
Absolutely.
I do before bedtime every night. So your brain's kind of working on something positive.
That's right, 100%.
When I say watch TV, it's like watch something relaxing or funny, not something violent.
Yes, the choice to make, isn't it? It's the choice to make. If you're watching a big action-packed or a thriller or something, a murder mystery or something, a real-life story that's quite upsetting, it's not going to be good for your mental health. So
no, exactly.
Absolutely. Something comical, something relaxing, something gentle and calming, uplifting is really nice. But also, absolutely, gratitude. Gratitude is so key. And, whether you either write it down or you just say it in a prayer, or before you go to bed, just say 3 things you're grateful for, and then at least it puts you on a nice positive element before you go to sleep. Absolutely. So now let's talk about eating. Let's talk about that. Oh my gosh, obviously I'm in hospitality, my life is food. Tell me about eating, Rachel.
Well, I like eating too. I like cooking, and I like going back to nice restaurants. So I think the most important thing is with any kind of, when I say diet, I'm not meaning losing weight diet, but eating. So it's important that you're eating healthy proteins. Chefs will know: meat, fish, shellfish, eggs, nuts, seeds, dairy, and non-dairy. So if you're vegetarian or vegan, then obviously your choices are going to be fewer, but you can still have really great nutritional food. And then, of course, lots of vegetables and fruit. And I would say to people, don't eat more than 3 pieces of fruit a day, because if you're like eating a smoothie that's packed full of like a whole punnet of strawberries and blueberries, you can cram a lot in a blender. It's not actually going to be particularly good for you. So focus on the veggies and just kind of make sure that's what you're doing 5 days a week, 2 days a week. Do what you want to do, but try and avoid junk food, because junk food is not good for us. I know it's convenient, but it does have a detrimental effect on our health. There's no nutrition in it, and it's very addictive. And food manufacturers really don't have a vested interest in our health. They just want us to buy more stuff, and we get hooked into the flavors or the salt or whatever, just to make it, and the kind of recipes they do. I think there's this formula of 2 parts carb to 1 part fat. And if you kind of think about, whether it's a cake or it's ice cream or whether it's fries or, whatever, that is kind of like the magic thing that our brains get hooked into, and then we kind of want to have this dopamine fix. So it is focus on your diet. Chefs know how to cook. So it's like, most people...
I think the problem we have is that what's happens is that we're like the last in the pecking order, you see, because we're so used to cooking for everybody else and running around and preparing the food and making sure that it's absolutely beautiful, amazing, and all the rest. And then by the end of the evening, when it comes to ourselves, this is where we falter, I guess, in some ways. This is where we neglect ourselves. We will go and just pick, nibble, just grab something quick because we've spent all day, all evening cooking for others.
I mean, I think staff meals, especially when I was in the hospitality industry, was a big issue. You used to have all the crud basically, or it was something cheap. So, if you're responsible for staff meals, try and make them healthier and tastier. Healthy doesn't necessarily mean that it's devoid of taste. And then at home, it's always have things like sort of eggs or cheese in the fridge, or pouches or cans of pulses, cans of tomatoes, veg that's not going to go off quickly. So, for example, I had some veg delivered a couple of weeks ago, some parsnips and some carrots. I've just kept them in the fridge. They're still... They haven't got all soft and rubbery. I mean, they're still okay. And I've still got a cauliflower that's okay. I've still got cabbages that's okay. So just make sure that you've got, a bit of fruit, and you've got some vegetables that you can always sort of knock something up. So I know that I can, if I've got eggs, I can do poached eggs, scrambled eggs, or any kind of eggs, or something with cheese. If feta is great, you can stick it in a salad, you can bake it in the oven, you can do roasted veggies, all sorts of different things that you can do quite quickly.
If you're enjoying this week's episode, consider heading over to our website and supporting our ongoing work in destigmatizing mental illness and creating a healthier, happier, and more sustainable industry by purchasing some of our branded merchandise. We have a whole range of t-shirts, hoodies, chef's jackets, wellbeing journals, plus a whole host more available on worldwide dispatch. All funds raised from sales of these items go towards free-to-access e-learning content, as well as providing free support systems and help for those who may be experiencing difficulty with their mental health.
I think it's also, isn't it, the regularity, isn't it, of eating and not allowing yourself to crash and burn, right?
Yeah, exactly. It does require planning and being organised. And I think once you've made a habit of sort of doing that and thinking, okay, what shifts am I working this week? And what am I going to eat? And when am I going to eat it? And is it something I can take with me to work? Or is it because the staff meals aren't that good? Or am I going to just make something quickly when I get home? Or is it something that's pre-prepared, that's left over from the meal the other day? I can stick in a microwave or heat up. It's like I was like busy yesterday and I had some bit of soup left over for supper and I had some cheese and apple. And that was fine for me. I didn't need anything else. Also, we tend to overeat. We tend to eat more than we actually need. We're like eating 50% more than we did in the 1970s. So we can kind of rein it in a bit. And with the cost of living crisis, it's like you don't need to eat as much as you think you do. But it's
recognizing that, isn't it? It's recognizing when you're full up. I mean, this is advice that I think is so important for anyone, is that you don't have to go on a special fad diet. So forget all those. Sorry, I don't believe in any of them, that ketogenics, this, that, and this, no disrespect to anybody that's followed that. And for some, that can have considerable health benefits. And I appreciate that. But I think what it is that rather than putting undue pressure on yourself, I've got to go on this new diet, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to count my points, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. No, count my calories, blah, blah, blah. No. Because even when you're counting calories, it's the quality of the calories you're taking in rather than the quantity. Yes. And so really, I think it's making sure that you're eating a rainbow, and that doesn't mean Skittles. It means like eating a nice rainbow. Like, forget that one in there, but eating a rainbow, colourful vegetables. So, following that Mediterranean diet, colourful fruits, vegetables, grains, pulses, having that balanced diet, lots of whole grains. And really, I think the keys are, if you wanted to make any significant diet change, it would just simply, I would simply say, cut out the refined sugar and the refined stuff. If you cut out some of that and just focus on eating whole foods, whole grains, plant foods, then actually, to be honest with you, you're onto a winner anyway. I mean, it's interesting with the hospitality sector because we've got polar opposites anyway. We've got the one side where we've got some of us that, might eat too much, we have very poor diets. And then some of us who are absolute health freaks, health fanatics, because that is quite a big thing in the sector as well, with chefs all going to the gym and working out and, all of that as well. So, I mean, it is interesting. And I think if you're someone who's listening and does follow a really healthy diet, then be a buddy to someone who maybe is struggling, be a friend to them, help them out, give guidance, give advice, help your team to eat better. If you find that maybe in your team, people aren't making the best choices for themselves, because when we don't eat right, what happens, Rachel? When we don't eat right, it affects our well-being, mental health.
Mental and physical health, and we don't want to get sick. So it is more about prevention than cure, and food is medicine, so if you're eating the right food, you're just going to feel so much better. You're going to have more energy, and especially when you're going to be working long shifts, you want to have energy.
Absolutely. You want energy, and like you said, you absolutely made that crucial point. Food is medicine, and that is an old historical, ancient ethos that was adopted, I think, by, was it Socrates or Plato or right. So food is medicine, and when you look at food in that way, I think even just having that switch in your brain, in your mind, it can change your whole perspective on how you look at what you need to eat or what you want to eat.
You are what you eat, basically.
Absolutely.
And that's
absolutely.
That's how your body regenerates cells from what you feed it.
Absolutely. 100%. And I totally. And I think that moves us nicely into movement. So the last year, because you obviously sleep and eat, I think people can, sort of relate to that quite a lot. But the movement, the thinking, the pausing, I love that. I love the fact that you've got these in there in your pillars. So tell us about moving.
Yes, moving. Well, moving's a better word than fitness, because I think people who are like how I was, the word fitness just freaks you out, and it's like, oh God, I've got to go down the gym and blah. So if you're on your feet all day, you are moving, but you need to kind of have a balance where you are working the whole of your body. So it's like whatever works for you. And, I used to think, well, I don't want to go to the gym because, taking an hour out, I've got to drive there and shower and blah, 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 blah. So I used to kind of like go, oh, I don't want to do that. But I discovered HIIT workouts where I can do a workout in 10, 15 minutes. I can do it at home. I have to sort of step foot in a gym. There's plenty of stuff that's free, so you don't have to pay for it, on YouTube. Love him or hate him, 𝗄𝗲𝗄𝗀, I think, is brilliant. And there's
definitely
loads and loads of stuff out there on his YouTube channel. And, keep playlists so that you can actually sort of save a workout and think, oh, I really enjoyed that. It was really great. Or, things like yoga. There's yoga with Adrienne, or yoga with Cassandra. She's a woman based in Canada. I follow her stuff. Again, short workouts. Yoga is so good for you. Or even if you're like just walking or you're dancing, it's just do something that is going to help your physical health, because it is so important. And as I said, you don't have to do it for that long. And it's important, as we get older, when you're in your 20s, you kind of think, meh, I'm invincible, nothing's going to happen to me. But I think as you get older, maybe you get married and you have kids, then you kind of start to realize actually you need to be around for your children to look after them and bring them up. It's like, well, as you get older, and then, at the age of 40, your muscle mass starts to decrease. So it's like, well, how can you keep that going? How can you make sure that as you get older, as the muscles sort of slacken off a bit, that you're not going to have falls? Things like exercising your feet. There's like, I think there's about 39 muscles in the feet. And just making sure that your ankle joints are stable and your hips are stable, your knees are stable. And that is to do with doing exercise so that you are reducing the risk of all the nasties as you get older. I mean, to be frank, we're all going to die at some point. But if you can keep those healthy years going as long as possible, and that is investment when you are healthy, to make sure that you are going into those sort of late 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, just being as healthy as possible. You don't know genetically what you've got stored up, but at least it's going to be a help that if you are healthier.
Yeah.
And there's 4 things that I sort of talk about in terms of exercise. So sweat,
stretch. That's so good. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, I think investing in your mobility is actually really, really key, right? So I think investing in your mobility, because that is it, isn't it? It's as you get older. So you may not notice it now. And you're right. You know, when you're younger, you think, oh yeah, I'm cool. I'm invincible. There is that build up. It's a slow progress. And suddenly, pow, it hits you. It comes up from behind. And you just think, what? Where did that come from? You know, oh my God, when did I get to 50? You know, when did I get to not being able to even stretch my arms out anymore, wave my arms out in the air or whatever it was? You know, when did that happen to me? And actually, you know, look, when we work in the industry that we're in and you know, that I'm in, and when we're, you know, in a kitchen and you're hot and you're sweating, you know, boy, are you sweating? You know, you're sweating, you're running around, you're burning calories, you're burning energy. But actually, really what, you know, I think Rachel is trying to say as well is that we want to be moving outside of that as well. So outside of your usual job, you want to be sort of doing something a little extra, because in a way, it's a beautiful way for having downtime for yourself as well. It's giving yourself some time, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's important that you raise your heart rate. And you know, when you're sweating in a kitchen, it's because you're working over hot stoves. It's not generated by your own kind of body heat doing exercise. So it is so important that you do some kind of exercise, but it doesn't actually have to be for that long. You know, if you're just doing like 15 minutes a few days a week, that's a start. And I say to people, if you're not doing anything, do something. And if you're doing something, how can you improve it? So example for me was, I'm reasonably fit. I haven't been like a massive gym bunny, and I do my HIIT workouts and I do my yoga. And I was way down in Cornwall and I did some yoga classes, and I thought, oh my God, I'm not as flexible as I used to be. And I thought, right, I need help. And this is one of the things, it's like, maybe you can't do it by yourself. You need help. Maybe you need a book. Maybe I need to be motivated by somebody else. So I thought, right, okay, what can I do? I'll join a yoga class. But actually what happened in the end, my husband and I decided to get a personal trainer. And we've been doing it since mid-October. And in those sort of few months that we've been doing it, oh my God, our fitness levels have increased tenfold. Just feel so much better, so much stronger, more flexible. I've got back into my running again, and I just feel fantastic. And also a bit of a motivation for me is like, you know, I'll be 60 in November, that I want to be the healthiest version of me I can. Going into that sort of into my next decade. So it is a massive investment for me, but it's kind of recognizing and thinking, what does my body need? What do I need to do to make it feel better?
Yeah, and that is it, isn't it? It's that listening to yourself, listening to your body. Don't go suddenly deciding. And obviously, it's that sort of time of year, isn't it, where after people have had excessive eating, or when they've sort of had something happen, say either whether it's the summer holidays, Christmas, or whatever it is, that suddenly people pledge, or lead up to the summer holiday, oh, get that bikini body, or oh my God, work off that Christmas weight, or and it's all in your face, it's thrust at you, and fitness, and you feel under a lot of pressure, a lot of overwhelm. But listen to yourself, listen to your body, listen to what your body needs. And if you feel that, you know, you want to get up and you want to just do a stretch, do that. Go out for a walk, fantastic. Go out and walk in nature. You know, run, great, go ahead. But do what works for you, what works for your body right now. And just, you know, work on that edge. Work on that edge is what a lot of trainers say, I think, isn't it? They work on that edge. Just on that edge, right? And being just on that edge of pushing yourself a little bit. And that's the important thing. Now, we've got to talk about thinking and pausing. We've got to talk about that, because we, you know, I want to hear all about your last 2 pillars, Rachel. So tell me about think.
Right. Well, let's do think. So think. I wanted to kind of give this sort of pillar, you know, I've called it resilience in the past, be more resilient. And it kind of just didn't sit well with me, because, or else it's stress. And it's like, well, the other ones, it just doesn't fit. You know, I was thinking, well, eat, move, sleep. And then it's like, stress. So I came up with think, because that does encompass mental health and stress management. And it's like, well, just getting people to understand that we all have stress. We just have to manage it. We don't kind of reduce our stress. We learn to manage it. But I think the most important thing when you're looking at mental health and stress is you have to look at the cause. It's like, what is making you feel like this? What is causing your anxiety? And it may take somebody else to help you go on that journey. But it's very important to recognize when you're kind of, I say, going over the edge a little bit. You've got sort of different types of stress, or the signs of stress. So it could be behavioral. So this is where we reach for the bottle of wine, or we overeat, or it could be a physical symptom, or it could be a mental symptom. For me, what happens to me when I'm kind of going into overwhelm, I keep going. And then suddenly, bam, I get exhaustion. And it's like my energy just drops off the edge of the cliff. And I'm like, can't do anymore. I get very emotional as well. So I call it my emotional tiredness. And that is my big sign to actually stop.
Yeah.
And go, right, okay, what do I need to do? It might be just taking a few minutes out, or it is literally stopping what I'm doing and just like leaving it. Or is it kind of looking at what is stressing me out and thinking, okay, and I'm sure Paula may have mentioned this on her podcast, it's kind of looking at the things that are stressing you out and then looking at what you can control, what you can influence, what is beyond your control. With the first two, you can kind of create a bit of an action list and think, okay, what's going to make me feel better and help me kind of get on top of this stress and help me manage it a lot better. And the stuff that's beyond my control, I just have to let it go, or I have to reframe the way I think about it. Else it's just going to eat me, mind away, because I'm just going to be obsessing about it. It is important that we just recognize what's all going on and understanding that, yes, we do need a little bit of stress, because cortisol kind of gets us up in the morning. It takes over from our sleepy hormone. So if we've got adrenaline and cortisol, that kind of gets us out of bed. If we're motivated to do something, that's when our sort of stress chemicals are sort of like firing us up a bit, helps us achieve stuff. But once you kind of go over that achievement and it's starting to sort of like flood your body with all these chemicals, and then you start to get the signs of stress, then you really need to sort of take a step back and look after yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's recognizing that, isn't it? When it's no longer enjoyable, a bit like gambling. You might have a one little high, the one little win, but then when it all starts to go a bit pear-shaped and it's no longer becoming fun, it's no longer enjoyable, it's learning to be aware of that and stop and step away and take that time out for yourself. I mean, kids are really great at doing this, aren't they? Young kids, I mean, they're brilliant. They'll have a tantrum, they'll throw all their toys out, they'll throw themselves down on the floor, and then suddenly within 5 minutes they're asleep, or they, or they have a good cry, or they let it out. And it's really important to actually recognize that, if you're feeling safe, you're boiling up, you're feeling angry, step away, get outside, step away, go scream in a pillow, go run to the end of the street or top of a mountain or wherever, somewhere safe, find a safe space for yourself and just let it out and have a good cry, have a good scream, release it out of yourself, because even getting angry is a sign in your body that something needs to come out. You need to release your pent up frustrations.
My sort of first aid kit for stress is, when you kind of recognize you're like that, it is take yourself out of the environment, whether it's going into another room or go outside, whatever, and breathe, because we're shallow breathing when we're stressed. So belly breathe from your diaphragm or your belly, and just get some air into your lungs and just sort of kind of, nice slow breath. If you have to sort of like stretch your arms out, and kind of do it as well. So that is kind of like the most important thing that you can do, is just start to breathe. And it is like, you kind of go, count to 10, but it's actually nice, slow breaths, belly breaths. And it is changing your physiology. So whether it's moving around, going out for a walk, or, whatever, but just remove yourself from that situation.
Yeah, I like that. That's brilliant. I think that's really great. So there you go. First aid kit for stress. Remove yourself from the situation, from the environment that's causing the stress. Adopt that belly breathing. Breathe in, nice slow breath in right through to the belly, the chest, and then breathe out, slowly breathe out, and then it's all about changing your physiology. So yeah, going out for a walk, taking that walk just to, get away from the situation is so important. And, we can all do this. Don't ever feel that you are bound to stay in that space because of obligation or because you're worried about what someone else is going to think. Tell the manager, tell the boss, speak to a colleague and just say, look, I'm going to have to step away from here. I need some time out, and take that time out for yourself, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is that you need. Take the time out, because otherwise it's just going to linger onto you, and then all it does is it then carries over, and you carry that with you. And we do, and we carry it in our shoulders, our neck, our head, our bodies. And yes, it can have long-term effects for us. So yeah, that first aid kit for stress, I like that. That is amazing. So then I think that leads us beautifully into your pause. So
yes. Actually, just to go back, I just suddenly remember that I should tell you about a breathing technique. It's called 4-7-8.
Oh, brilliant. Yes. Let's do that.
So it's breathe in for the count of 4, hold for 7, and breathe out for a count of 8, and do about 3 or 4 times. And you're breathing it in through your nose, and you can breathe out through your mouth. We can breathe out through your nose, but it's a really calming breath. It kind of gets your brain from sympathetic nervous system into parasympathetic nervous system, which is your calming nervous system.
Right, I love that.
So let's talk about pause.
Yes.
So as I said at the beginning, that originally I was going to have rest as this pillar, and sort of in the spring I had to take some time out because I had some minor surgery. I was kind of feeling a bit sorry for myself, and I was sort of mulling over this whole thing, that I was thinking, well, I'm actually taking out time to pause. And then I was thinking about, what does pause mean? And it's like, well, it could be resetting, refreshing. It's kind of all like what I call the words. And I was sitting there in bed, like scribbling out all these, like, oh my God, what are all the words? Recharge, and, all sorts of different things. And you can do pause for a few seconds, if you want to like do the breathing thing, if you're stressed. Yes. It is a form of pause. You could do it for a few minutes. You could do it for a few hours. I paused for a few weeks in the end. It's kind of thinking about, what does your brain and your body need? But also pause is quite a broad subject, because it's like, it is that thing that you do between work and sleep. It is a form of rest. So rest is a part of pause. But pausing and doing something like a hobby or an interest. So, for example, I like painting and drawing. So that's a form of my pause. It helps me switch off. It's a meditative type of thing that so I lose myself in that. Or I love languages, and I'm learning Spanish on the app called Duolingo. Amazing. And it's like every day for 5 minutes, I have to do it. It is actually a bit of an addiction. It's a great addiction because I'm learning something useful. It just helps me switch off. And actually, when I was sort of recovering after surgery, that it was like, actually, do you know what? This is meditation for me. Doing Duolingo, it just helped me just forget out everything. And I was just like sucked into sort of like learning Spanish. So pausing, or you could pause something. So, for example, if you're pausing alcohol for 30 days, you're doing dry January or something like that. So pauses all sorts of different things. It's kind of like other things, but it means quite a lot. So it could be, where you're just taking time out to reassess your life, or you're doing your goals, or you're sort of looking at your habits for the year, things you want to change. It's working kind of on you. So that's really what pause is all about. And it's having that downtime as well. So you could use pause as being that bit between coming home from work or being out with everybody after work and then before bedtime. That's a form of pause. So it's not sleeping.
Yeah, that's right. And that's so important, isn't it, to differentiate between that and that? Because you're right. It's about taking ourselves away from the usual humdrum of life, of what's gone on, what's happened. And no, people, you can't use Christmas or any of those sort of holiday times to do that as well. I'm going to say that. Okay, we'll be quite strict about that, just in the sense that, yes, if you're taking an actual holiday break, deliberate holiday break for yourself, and really genuinely pausing, because the thing is with those sorts of type things is that you're still on it, because you're running around, you're cooking dinner, you're seeing your family, your friends, This is about actually working on yourself. This is about taking time out for you, okay? Because you matter, right? You matter. And that's what I'm always saying, you matter. And therefore you take time out for you. So yes, practicing breathing technique, but pausing for as long as you need. Now, it could be, yes, like you said, pausing away from alcohol for 30 days, or it could be pausing from social media. They're amazing triggers, aren't they? I mean, they really are ridiculous triggers. So like, pausing away from Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and blah, blah, whatever else, and TikTok and I don't know, whatever else social media is out there these days, pausing from those without feeling guilt. There's no shame and no guilt here, please. And I think it's so important to put that out there as well. No shame, no guilt. You are allowed to take that time off. You do not have to justify it to anybody. You don't have to feel guilty about it. You don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to approve anything to anybody. This is about you. Because, and I like what you said about the hobby or interest. In fact, this is actually a form of mindfulness. So it is. And when we pause and when we step away, what we do is, you can go and do something like, say, wash the dishes, right? So wash the dishes, or just sit and eat an apple. Focus on eating that apple or that orange, the textures and the flavors and the whole process of peeling it, or breaking it apart, cutting it up. Just embrace and enjoy that moment when you're washing the dishes, the hot soapy water, the dishes, getting the dirt off the dishes, putting the dishes on the dish rack, rinsing them off, getting them on the dish rack, drying them off. That again is a great way to pause. So if you feel like you can't sit on your own, because that again is a good pause, the meditation, or just sitting still, being still. And if you struggle with that, if you find that hard to be still, then do something like a hobby, like learning a language, reading a passage from a book, taking some time out, washing the dishes, whatever it is. Do something to help yourself to get away from what's going on in your life. Because actually, when you do take the pause and you do have that moment, that's when you have your biggest insights. That's when you get your aha moments, right?
Absolutely, yes, yeah. And I kind of measure my time off on the amount of books that I can read. So,
right, very great. You learn something, right?
Yeah, because I just love it. I just love to read, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, or whether it's learning more about health and stuff like that. I just love to be able to just sit and immerse myself in a book.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think reading, whatever it is, and actually, personal development, growth books are amazing, uplifting books, inspirational books, biographies, that kind of stuff, lovely uplifting stories. I think they really help to boost our morale and make us feel better. And actually, reading is just such a powerful thing, because your mind is expanding, isn't it? Your mind is expanding. Now, it's amazing. Rachel, you have been absolutely amazing. I think you've given us so many little nuggets of information, beautiful tips and guidance on how to adopt a better, more vitality driven life. So tell everyone where they can find you.
Okay, so my business is called Zest Lifestyle. My website is 𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗏.com, and my email is rachel@zestlifestyle.com. You can follow me on Instagram at @Zest_lifestyle, or you'll find me on LinkedIn. So we're going to put the link up, but you might find me as Zesty Lady rather than Rachel Williams.
Zesty Lady, that's right. She's my Zesty Lady.
So you'll find what I am doing is putting out health tips on social most days, following the 5 pillars. So you can get lots of free advice there, or be inspired to do something. Also, what we do at Zest Lifestyle, we do talks, so what I call live sessions. So they could be either online or on site. And we do have an employee hub, but we're actually just changing that to an app. We're just building an app at the moment, which covers the 5 pillars. And yeah, that's what we do.
Amazing. That's absolutely beautiful. Rachel, thank you so much for being my guest, being here. And to all of you wonderful listeners, I'm going to leave you with a little message today. I'm actually going to leave you with the Serenity Prayer, as I think it goes really beautifully well with today's podcast. And that is, please God or universe, divine being, whoever you want to pray to, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to have the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you so much, everybody, and I shall see you again soon.